Welcome into another edition of Pete's Pigskin Preview, presented by our friends at RiverLand Roofing. My name is Neal McCready. I'm joined, as always, by MPW Digital football expert Pete DeWeese for the 12th and final time of this regular season. Probably not the last time, I wouldn't think. 12th of 12 games, though. Ole Miss beats Florida last week. I guess we're taping this, full disclosure, not because of just because of travel and such. We're taping this during the open date, so about a week before the game. So by the time you see this, it will be game week. We taped it a few days earlier because of my travel. Pete's got high school football, his team advancing in the playoffs, so stuff's going on. And it made sense for us to tape today. Ole Miss beats Florida 34-24 to improve to 10-1 overall. 6-1 in the Southeastern Conference. The Rebels, as of this taping, are number 6 in the college football playoff. We'll probably run this on a Tuesday, so they'll still be 6th in the college football playoff as we get closer to the end of the season. The Rebels and the Mississippi State Bulldogs in Starkville on Black Friday. That game is at 11 a.m. there at Davis Wade Stadium on ABC. Nationally televised game. The Rebels, Pete, I think it's the biggest game Ole Miss has played in a long, long time, and this is what happens when you get big special seasons. Every game gets bigger and bigger and bigger. A win, and Ole Miss is, at a minimum, hosting a college football playoff game at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. A loss to a Mississippi State team with bad metrics is scary. It puts you at the mercy of the committee. As of this recording, we don't know exactly what's going on with all the Lane Kiffin stuff. And then in addition to that, you just don't know what's going to happen behind you. You don't know what's going to happen with Vanderbilt. You don't know what's going to happen with some of the other teams, USC. You don't know what's going to happen with all of these teams behind you. Do they make noise? Do they fade away? Things that I can't predict. If I could, I would be traveling to Vegas right now, and I would just be texting with Mr. DeWeese here and saying, hey, you want to handle some of this action, but I don't know that. So
send me your Venmo.
Yeah. So instead, it's important. It's a massive game. I was telling you, just from a economic impact standpoint, in Oxford, we're probably talking between $50 and $70 million. That's before you even talk about the prestige and the opportunity, and of course the ability to compete for a championship and all the things that you always talk about, you coaches, when you are starting camp and you're starting the off season and you're running guys at 6 a.m. The motivation is, hey, we're going to do something special, and here it is. This is the special. The running at 6:15 in the morning on June 12th is not all that special. This is the opportunity to do something special. It's right in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, this is without a doubt, when you set goals at the beginning of the season and what you try to use as the motivation throughout that long off season and then all the preparation. I mean, this is definitely the kind of cookie that you hold out there, or the carrot you dangle, whatever, little phrase you want to use. But it's a big one. And, like to your point, in some way, the fact that Ole Miss and Mississippi State are both off this week leading into the Egg Bowl is kind of what allows us to do this right now. And tape it so early and not feel like we've missed a lot from a schematic standpoint or a roster development standpoint. But at the same time, like if you're Ole Miss, you're sitting there and you're watching games this weekend and you're hoping that somebody behind you falls. They need insurance. They shouldn't, right? They go beat Mississippi State. They shouldn't, but there is a cloud hanging over the college football playoffs and really hanging over Oxford a little bit right now, obviously, with everything that is going on. And so, you have to go into this game with the mindset of, and I think that's one thing that's worked well for Ole Miss since the Oklahoma game. I think realistically since the Georgia game ended, every game they've treated like a playoff game, right? Every game has been a big game. Outside of Citadel, every game has been a big game. And you got that vibe after the Oklahoma game with the sense and the way that the staff and the players were speaking in the press conference. You need to treat this not as a box is checked, we're in, but you need to treat this as part of that process and part of that playoff game mentality. And listen, I don't know. I mean, if Ole Miss loses this game, I can't tell you what's going to happen. But one thing you always talk about is you always want to control your own destiny, and you don't want to leave it in the hands of other people. And winning this ball game, you very much control your own destiny. And if you don't win this ball game, you leave it in the hands of other people. And again, that's just, you never know what's going to happen in that type of scenario. So certainly a big week. I agree with you. It's a very big week. Listen, everybody knows this game can always go sideways. It's a hell of a rivalry. It's been a hell of a rivalry for a long time. And sometimes maybe you make too much out of it and the better team shows up and they win, period. But it doesn't always go like that. And it's never damn easy,
Yeah.
There's always some crazy moments. There's always, some sweat until finally somebody kind of does pull away. And so, this is a Mississippi State football team that, they're still fighting too. I mean, a 6 win maybe gets them into postseason play in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
And that's on the table for them.
They've played some really good games now. Of late, they look like they're starting to run out of steam. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. These last couple of games, defensively especially, they look like they've lost a little bit of steam. But I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, listen. You can say what you want about Texas after what happened in Athens last week. Texas is still a damn good football team, and they took Texas down to the wire. Had an opportunity. Florida last week came in, in that game. We'll talk about it in a little bit. It just we'll get there, but the Florida Mississippi State game. Mississippi State certainly had an opportunity to win that football game. They had several opportunities throughout the course of the season to kind of add on to their win totals, and they just kind of weren't quite able to get over the hump. I mean, even the Tennessee game was a relatively close game in the end. And Tennessee's a top 15 ball team. They go to Texas A&M, they start hot, and then Texas A&M kind of climbs on top of them. You drop 2-point loss to Florida, you drop the 1 touchdown score to Texas, but then you go and you barely beat Arkansas. And we know Arkansas is not a great football team, but we've also said it about this Ole Miss football team. You have, going into last week, 1 SEC win that was by 2 scores. A lot of those Ole Miss games were obviously close. And so as good as this Ole Miss team is, and I do think that they deserve to be ranked where they are, it's not like they've done it without being scathed in some way, shape, or form throughout the course of the season.
All right, this show, I'm going to hand it off to you here in a second. We're brought to you each and every week. I do want to say this because it might be a few weeks. Who knows? Maybe it's the week of December the 20th. Hell, maybe Ole Miss gets a bye and it's New Year's week. Who knows? But we've been brought to you all season long by our great friends at RiverLand Roofing. They've been terrific. They had to do my roof this summer because we had hail damage that was bad. And we had a number of problems. They were fantastic for us. They'll be great for you as well. They've sponsored this show this season. They've had multiple people, and I'm not just saying this to blow sunshine up Coach DeWeese's skirt here, but got a lot of people talk about, man, this season's been awesome. I've learned so much about this team, about what to expect from other teams. Learned a lot about what Ole Miss does, learned a lot about what South Carolina does, what Arkansas does, what Florida does, what different people do, what LSU tries to do, those kinds of things. And I think it has enhanced people's viewing. You're fortunate to cheer for a team that plays in the SEC. And I know you hate those teams on different days, but the coaching in this league is elite, just about across the board. And whether it was studying Bobby Petrino's offense or what South Carolina tried to do with Lenora Sellers or what LSU does defensively, especially the one that sticks out to me that a lot of people talk about is Oklahoma's defense, which ended up, if you watched earlier this month, they go to Tuscaloosa and just gave Ty Simpson and Alabama fits, and learned a lot about that. I watched some of that game on my computer going, oh, there they are. They're doing the thing from the deep blitz. And a lot of people have talked about that. Really cool. And all of it's been made possible by RiverLand Roofing. When it comes to durable, high-performance roofing, RiverLand stands above the rest as a licensed, insured, and GAF Masters Elite Certified roof replacement contractor with more than 60 years of combined experience. RiverLand specializes in roof repairs, replacements, and maintenance for both residential and commercial properties. RiverLand Roofing combines expert craftsmanship with cutting-edge roofing technology to ensure long-lasting protection for your home or business. Their team of manufacturer-trained specialists delivers top-tier service while staying within your budget. Whether you need a minor roof repair or a complete roof replacement, RiverLand provides customized solutions tailored to your needs. To learn more, call RiverLand 662-644-4297 or visit their website, riverlandroofing.com. Please make sure you tell RiverLand that you heard about them here on MPW Digital, Pete's Pigskin Preview, MPW Digital. You can mention Rebels 24/7. Just make sure you heard about them here. That would be really cool. And all season long, while we're passing out some kudos, this show has been produced by Caroline McCready. So thanks to her for her time, her work on getting this show produced and turned around and made available to all of you to watch and to listen to. So thanks to RiverLand, thanks to Caroline, and of course, Pete, most of all, thanks to you.
Yeah, listen, I love football. I love talking football. I'm a football nerd, definitely. And I'm blessed. I have a wife that absolutely supports my passion for football. I'm grateful that you guys at MPW give me a platform, but there's no question without RiverLand Roofing, it makes it even easier for me to tell my wife, hey, kids are in bed. I'm about to go disappear about back. And, oh, by the way, I'm busy breaking down Florida film right now. We can go get lunch later. So
it helps to get that check in December. He'll pay for some Christmas stuff for the little
listen.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, everybody loves a good Christmas present. And
absolutely.
Certainly, RiverLand Roofing help makes that possible, just like they make the show possible. And I don't want to say that I'm biased, but Caroline is probably my favorite MPW Digital producer.
Well, thank you.
I'm going to put that out there. Like when you start giving out end of the year bonuses,
yeah,
you make sure that you recognize that I've praised her.
Believe me, Pete, she is getting a bonus. She is getting a bonus. All right, so let's talk about the Bulldogs. Jeff Lebby and company, year 2, I guess. They're improved. There's 2 different ways to look at Mississippi State. It's interesting. They're clearly better than a year ago when they were bad. This year they beat Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham and company. They beat them at home. They took Texas to overtime. They scared the hell out of Tennessee. Played Georgia respectfully for about a quarter, and then it went away. And then Mizzou blew them out. Their one win is a win in Fayetteville over Arkansas in a game where they trailed about 14 points in the fourth quarter twice. So you can sort of pick your spin and go, hey, they're much better, or, man, come on, they really haven't done much. You can make that argument both ways, and debate class, right? You'd sort of, either side would pass.
No, you absolutely can. And it's one of those things that, like, when you watch them on both sides of the ball, there are flashes where you're like, oh, I see how they were in a game with Tennessee in the fourth quarter, right? And then there's flashes where it's like, oh, it's still part of that growth and maturation. And listen, some of it is the growth and maturation of a head coach. You know, I do think Jeff Lebby's done a good job there right now. Ole Miss fans know as well as anybody that it's easy to sometimes get frustrated with your coach, and Mississippi State fans have certainly had some of that. You look at the end of the Florida game and some of the other situations, and the way that kind of certain things have played out and haven't necessarily played out in their favor. And people from the outside look at those coaching decisions. The reality is this: sitting on your couch watching a game is a completely different situation than standing on the sidelines and it all happening in real time.
Yeah.
And you do not, it does not matter how long you coach, you will never understand what it means to wear the big whistle until you wear the big whistle.
Yeah.
And you can be a coordinator for years, but until you're in that situation in a game, it's different, period. And so, when you hire someone that has a coordinator background, in my opinion, there has to be room for growth and for growing pains. And as long as you're seeing progress, you have to be willing to live with that a little bit. And I think Mississippi State's administration is, because they certainly, I think, have seen progress, even though I think State fans would argue that some of those growing pains from the staff have been kind of present at times throughout the year. So, it just starting off, one of the first things that I always do is I've usually seen some ball, right? By this time of year, I've watched some of their games, seen parts of it. And we've talked about this in the past. I mean, look, my brother and sister graduated from Mississippi State. My father graduated from Mississippi State. And so, my brother, we talk every weekend, and it's, what'd you think of the Dogs? And we kind of go back and forth. And so one of the first things I do, once I've seen a little bit, is I go look at the numbers. Offensively, they're ninth in the conference in scoring, but they're putting up almost 32 points a game. They're fifth in the conference in passing. The issue is they've given up 37 sacks on the year, which is 14th worst in the conference. What I think they're doing a really good job of is Lebby is making you defend 53 1/3 yards of the field. That is the width of a college football field, and he is making you defend every inch of it. And he's doing a good job by design. They have 3 ball carriers on their roster with over 100 carries. By comparison, you look at the Ole Miss roster, and it looks entirely different. By attempts, you've got Booth with 133 carries for Mississippi State. You've got Chapin at 111 carries. And then you've got Fluff Bothwell or Boothwell, however you say it, with 111 carries on the season. And then, you've got your next guy down at 44 attempts. That is a very, very diverse script for that team. And so when you look at that production, the fact that they've been able to distribute the ball that much in the run game, it does make it hard to key in on somebody. By comparison, you're talking about Kejuan Lacey has 231 carries on the season. Trinidad Chambliss has 110, and the next highest total is 24 attempts. So not nearly the same amount of ball distribution. Clearly still production on the Ole Miss side, but Mississippi State does a good job really spreading it around. Ole Miss has a little bit more disparity in how they spread the ball around to their receivers. The top receiver for Mississippi State, Anthony Evans III, has 63 receptions for about 750 yards. Brennan Thompson, who has been pretty electric all year long, has 47 catches for 870 yards. You're talking about a kid that's averaging, almost 19 yards per reception. And so, from the run game, they try to do a good job of staying balanced, really make you defend multiple guys, multiple schemes. In the passing game, they are a little bit more one-sided. Ole Miss kind of distributes the ball a little bit more evenly. You're talking about at Mississippi State, you have 3 guys with 30 catches or more. Ole Miss is the same, but you've got a kid at 28, a kid at 26, a kid at 24, and a kid at 21 right behind them. And so it does kind of feather out, and the distribution is a little bit more equal. If you're Mississippi State, where your concern is, and people have known it all season, it's the defense. They're giving up, they're 14th in the conference in scoring. They're 16th in the conference in rush defense, giving up 190 yards a game. And you're coming and looking at an Ole Miss team. Kejuan Lacey just came off a record-breaking, national recognition type of day. You have to be licking your chops a little bit if you're that Ole Miss offense. Their secondary is not bad. Honestly, I thought that's one of the high points of the team. When you watch them, they have guys in the right place a ton. Where they tend to give up a lot of their passing yards, or when teams are effectively running the football, they have to add an additional secondary player to the box. And at that point, they open up a little bit more space on the back end, and they become a little bit more susceptible to play action as well. They're near the bottom of the league with only 20 sacks on the season. But one thing you do have to be conscious of if you are, this Ole Miss offense, is this Mississippi State secondary is first in the league in interceptions. They've got 12 turnovers on the season, and they are very active on that back end. for Mississippi State fans, and I think for a lot of the success of their team, a lot of times comes down to what their offense is able to do. And I know a lot of the conversation amongst Mississippi State fans, after games and even during games, is the frustration with the quarterback. And so we're going to spend most of our time tonight focusing specifically on this Mississippi State offense. And we're going to try to take a little bit of a closer look of how Jeff Lebby uses not just all the players in his offense, but specifically those quarterbacks, and talk about some of the things. A lot of Mississippi State fans, they want to see him make the switch to Taylor. They want to see the freshman behind center, but he is yet to make that decision full time. And I think in a recent press conference, he kind of talked about, kind of talked around it, but talked about how they think that Shapen, is more consistent in his decision making, has a better understanding of the offense. And I know as a fan that can be frustrating sometimes. But on the film, I understand why Lebby says what he says. It certainly shows up. So I thought we'd look at two different games, really. Two of the more recent games. Look at the Mississippi State offense versus the Missouri defense, and then this Mississippi State offense versus the UGA defense, taking a close look, not just at scheme, but at the quarterbacks as well. So let me go ahead and share screen. I just realized I hadn't done it yet. And let's kind of dial in a little bit on this Mississippi State offense. Schematically, they do a lot of things that we have talked about in the past, including things we've seen from the Ole Miss offense at times, in particular when Jeff Lebby was in Oxford. So one of the things that you will see is oftentimes they do play with wide splits. They are not afraid to max out those receivers, get them as far away from the core of the offensive structure as they can. And they do that in an effort to try to mitigate the box, to try to limit the count and force defenders to expand with those offensive players in hopes of making it easier to run the football. Mississippi State is, like I said, fifth in the conference in passing, but at the end of the day, they want to run the football. That they want that to be a major part of their identity. Okay, so one of the things that we've talked about when we talk about the Ole Miss defense is we have struggled at times this year with motion, and at times it's bit the Ole Miss secondary.
It
bit
them against Florida.
It bit them against Florida, right?
Yep,
and so, and in every game, we can go find those clips where motion throws them off, and it creates a big play opportunity for the opposing offense. Mississippi State loves.
Not to interrupt you, but frankly, it's been one of the things that I've really learned this season. Now, when teams are starting to do a lot of motion against Ole Miss, I'm kind of aware of, okay, they're trying to mess with eyes, and honestly, they're pretty successful with it. I mean,
when I get in these games now, after first down, when offenses start to motion, the first thing my eyes do is go to the safeties. Right at that point, it's where are the safeties? Are they in position? And because that's been one of the things. Now, listen, Ole Miss has gotten away with it. The reality is, you look at the SEC stats and defensive stats in particular, and Ole Miss's numbers as far as defending the pass is really not bad. They're in the top half of the league, and so, but they've also, and we've kind of highlighted it on here, they've kind of gotten away with some things, right? They've had quarterbacks that the pressure has caused them to miss, or they've just been inaccurate in general. If I'm reading these stats right, Ole Miss has given up 183 yards a game through the air. Now, playing the Citadel helps those numbers, right? But Ole Miss has given up 183 yards in the air, which currently puts them at third in the SEC in yards per game as a passing defense, right? So you're not doing an awful job by comparison. Mississippi State is seventh at 203 yards per game. But we've highlighted on here that there have been times where Ole Miss has, for lack of a better word, gotten away with it, right? And listen, as a football coach, that's going to happen. It happens every Friday night. It happens every Saturday. It happens every Sunday, where coverages get busted, guys are wide open, and offenses don't execute. And as an offensive coach, it's a very frustrating thing. And as a defensive coach, it's you thank
You
God and you
continue.
move on,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But I anticipate seeing a good bit of motion. Now they'll use motion in the run game, but they will also use motion in the passing game. So this is fairly early in this game against Missouri, and you will see them use a little bit of motion, and they'll actually on this one use it to set up a reverse. Jeff Lebby is not afraid. He's going to get the ball to his playmakers, and he's going to find the best ways to do it. And if that means reverse or speed sweep or anything like that, they are 100% going to carry it in the playbook. And I would be willing to bet that if there is anything left on the call sheet that hasn't been called this season, it comes out in Starkville on the day of the Egg Bowl. Moving on just a little bit later, here is another snap. And this is one thing that I caught them doing a good bit on film, and I think it's a pretty good design. One, you get these max splits, and what they're doing is they're stacking these outside receivers. Again, it's going to force you to make decisions with how you're going to handle coverage. It's going to force you to distribute numbers out to the field. They like to take this deepest receiver and motion him in. When he motioned him in, their full route tree is open. They can send him vertical across the field or deep. They can send him underneath to try to open up some type of space behind him. They have a lot of different things that they can do, but one of the things that they're trying to prevent you from doing is being able to play man-to-man on him. If you want to come in and be a man-to-man football team, typically when these two players stack, you have different ways that you can play that stack. When you now motion this guy in, if you're going to stay in your man-to-man principles, you are now asking one of these guys to try and maintain some type of leverage, giving your receiver a head start with the potential to run away from the defensive back. And so it's a nice design right here. Here they're bringing one of their best, most explosive players in motion, and you can see right there, all they're going to do is they're going to put their eyes on this weak safety. Now, the pressure here keeps this from being an explosive play. But as soon as this safety steps down in the concept, the ball can go behind him. And if Shapen has an opportunity to throw this football, it absolutely has a chance to be an explosive. The other thing that happens when he does push vertical and this safety deepens, you have a dig route coming behind him that opens up space as well. And if the pocket is clean right here, you have a chance to drop the ball into this window to an explosive player or drive the ball into this window for a first down and move the sticks. The key, because the skill for this Ole Miss offense this Mississippi State offense is legitimate. The key is winning at the line of scrimmage against this offensive line. And there are clips that pop out throughout the game where you certainly can see some deficiencies at time in defensive line or offensive line production and skill set. In particular, I think the left side of the offensive line, the left tackle, has a tendency to kind of lean and get his weight extended sometimes, and it causes some problems. Okay, so skipping forward a little bit later in the game, really nice design here. This is one that I think Lebby, this is straight out of the Lincoln Riley playbook from his days at Oklahoma. He made it real popular when Baker Mayfield was there, Kyler Murray. They will run counter scheme with their O-line a good bit. They're going to use this tight end here to pin the defensive end. They're going to fake the action to the running back, and then the quarterback is going to essentially boot out, and they are going to give him some type of a concept on the outside. The run action should secure the run box, make those linebackers and underneath players fit the run, and you can see here the way they actually do it is off of a two-quarterback look. This is Kamario Taylor in the backfield. This is Blake Shapen in the backfield. So you're going to snap it to one quarterback who you have shown to use quite a bit as a runner. He is going to hand it off to the other quarterback who is now going to essentially sprint out and work an outside concept. What I don't know is if Kamario Taylor has the authority to read this and to pull this. It could be an actual RPO where he has a chance to run the football. It may not be. I watched it several times today, fully trying to determine what if he was actually reading it, if at all. Okay. But
So what
one
you're
thing
saying is he might just be given an assignment. You hand it here or you fake it here and run here.
So typically, if you were doing this with a quarterback and an actual running back, and Ole Miss used to do this a ton with Jackson Dart, and they still do it now, you would be pulling two guys this way. You would block back, and you would read one of these outside defenders, most likely him. If he is upfield, running back's coming this way. If he's upfield, the quarterback would keep it and follow the pullers. If he chases the offensive line, you give it to the running back who's trying to outrun him. Well, here, using two quarterbacks, having them on the field together, same thing. The quarterback could still potentially read it the same way. If this guy were to squeeze, you hand the ball off to number two, who now, instead of being a running back, is actually a quarterback, just essentially executing a sprint out, right? If that end were to be upfield, you still give Taylor the chance to keep the ball and follow the counter the other direction. Here you can see this guy folds in, which would, if he is the read, would force you to make the give. This player actually gets upfield and almost has a chance to get there, but you can watch 87, the tight end, is just going to be patient. Anything that tries to come outside, he's there to protect it, so that if the ball is pushed wide, he is in position to kind of build the wall and provide an edge for the offense. Now, really nice, clever design, type of things you've actually seen out of Ole Miss a little bit this year with two quarterbacks on the field. But one of the highlights to this is what happens after the snap, in my opinion. The ball ends up going to Chapin. It is a very simple curl flat. They throw the curl, and they are good enough out wide at certain spots that they can turn an easy throw and catch and a missed tackle into an absolute explosive gain. And we've seen there be some times where Ole Miss allows space in the secondary, and when they miss tackles, there is certainly opportunity to get out and get loose. Very next play, they're going to come back out. They're going to keep Taylor in here at quarterback. Okay, again, this is the type of scheme that you have seen before out of Ole Miss as well as other teams. They like using Taylor as a runner. They're going to bring the motion here to try to affect the secondary and affect the run fit for the offense. Then what they're actually going to do is they're going to run a version of counter back the other way. They're going to pull this guard, and they're going to pull this tight end where the quarterback is the primary runner. When everything happens with the motion, he is going to read, excuse me, I hit the wrong button. He's going to read whoever he thinks is responsible for the running back. If the motion happens and this corner just backs up, that's probably going to be his read. If the motion happens and the corner chases the motion, he's going to read this linebacker. They're going to take that running back and they're going to release him on a wheel route down the sideline. If your read player steps up to defend the run, you're going to throw the wheel route. If the read player runs with it, then you have gained a +1 advantage, because now there's one less player to fit the run, and in theory, you now have the math for a successful run play. Okay, so we'll watch it from the wide angle, and then we will go to the tight copy so you can see it from the quarterback. There's the motion. So here, the corner rotates deep, so he puts his eyes on the backer. The backer expands with a running back, so Taylor keeps the football. Okay, you watch it from the end zone copy. As soon as he sees number 2 go high in the formation and the safety rotates, he's going to put his eyes right here. When the tailback runs the wheel, he's going to expand with him. If you block it well up front, the ball hits right there, and now you are running on a safety because you've deleted one from the box with the action. Right here, what ends up happening is Missouri's defensive front plays it fairly well, and it's actually not a true counter scheme. It's really more of like an inside lead, and what you want to see happen is you would like to see that ball hit here. And it can't, because they actually don't have anybody to account for this backside backer the way the combo's working. So he pushes it outside, and then they're able to gain. You end up gaining about 5 yards here on first down in the red zone. So clever design, simple design, very easy read for your athletic quarterback with the chance to be explosive. Skipping forward later in the game. You watch this team play and you think, okay, Taylor's in. High probability he's running the football. They will throw it with him in, but they really like to use his athleticism. You can't sleep on Chapin's ability as a runner. And it's not necessarily that he is the most effective runner, but again, he's credited with 111 carries on the season. Now, minimal yardage, but a ton of attempts on the season. Okay, so he does have 3 rushing touchdowns. What he has is some big runs and then a bunch of negative runs. This is an example of a big run here on a scramble. Okay, they are going to again use a little bit of motion, and they're going to get to a mesh concept that they love. Protection breaks down. The left tackle gets beat. He's able to step up in the pocket because they're playing a man principal coverage where everybody is vacating and running. He knows take off and go, and he converts the sticks with a big gain right there to move them across midfield and get them going. So he can be effective as a runner. Is he great in the design run game? He's not as explosive as Taylor is, but he does have the ability to get loose, and his recognition, because that is man-to-man, he knows right now, tuck it and go. There's nobody responsible for me. If it were zone, he's probably going to try to manipulate the pocket and find an underneath player in the concept. You know, here's another example of him being used as a runner right here, okay? This is a true designed quarterback run. They're actually going to pull an offensive tackle here to lead for him. They're going to send the running back off the weak edge to help protect, and Shapen is simply going to pull it and follow his puller down inside and get in the end zone. So they're not afraid to use him as a runner. And honestly, the more I watch, the more I realize that they do essentially, they keep the offense active with him in there. You can't just rely on him handing the football off all the time when he is in. Now, this is a very, very little thing right here, but I actually thought it was really cool, and so I wanted to highlight it. Not even going to spend a ton of time. They use a little return motion. He's going to start in. He's going to yo-yo back outside, and they're just going to get to a simple sprint out concept that has a chance to be open for the first down. But when I watched the end zone copy, something stood out to me. What do you notice, Neal?
He's offset. He's not behind the center. He's
offset. So right here, I don't know if it's a recognition thing. I didn't go back and watch enough games to tell you if this is something that they do a lot of, but you can tell he's offset right here intentionally. They are trying to get him away from the backside, trying to help him get on this edge a little bit faster to get the ball out of his hand in an RPO setting. So it's one of those things that it's little. I can't tell you something I've seen done a ton in modern football. But if you're watching the Egg Bowl next week and you notice that the quarterback is off center, can they run the football? Absolutely they can. But I would place money that the most likely thing that's going to happen is some type of sprint out, which is exactly what you get right here.
So what you're saying is they're doing this to help him get out of the pocket, to give him a little more
yes
room?
So sprint out sprint out in theory is one of the easiest things in the world to do. It can help a quarterback. It splits the field in half. It gives him a really easy read, and there's several different ways that you can handle sprint out protection. Some people use what's kind of called true turn back protection, where everybody's just literally going to turn back a gap, and you're going to use either a tight end, a running back, or both to set the edge. Okay. They also have what people call just full reach protection, where everybody's going to reach play side. And then you're going to kind of set the edge with somebody on the backside. A lot of people will kind of blend the two, and they'll start with the play side reach. And if there's nothing in my gap, they will use what is called a waterfall. So if I start to work and there's nothing here, I'm going to open my hips and get depth and look backside to try to catch anything coming now from my backside gap. Okay. If you have a short edge, and here it's not really that short of an edge, but I would love to see 77, the left tackle, have a bigger split, but he's probably worried about cutting off this 3 technique, which is why he's reduced. But if you're going to have a little bit of a short edge on the backside, or you don't feel like your quarterback is that fast, by shading him over, you can use the reach technique with the waterfall, and you put him at a little bit less risk. If you get into a waterfall situation quickly, you essentially allow the pocket to collapse a little bit. Now you're moving away from it, so you should in theory be fine. But with some of the freaks you see in the SEC, guys have the ability to chase you down from the backside and give you problems. So right here, you're going to see everybody's going to reach, and then the backside is going to start to waterfall just a little at the end. You see how 77 reaches the 3 technique, and then he's going to turn back and waterfall. And you can see 0, the tight end. First 2 steps, he's going to reach to the right and then turn back and waterfall. Now, what Missouri does here is a great job of, they're so wide. This 76 is never going to get to this guy. Mm-mm. He's hella wide. Missouri's kind of calling their bluff right here that they're not going to hand the ball off right here in this gap.
And then that linebacker, I can't really see his number, but he's a problem for them as this play develops.
Absolutely. So here, they can't get all the way out to this outside player. Now the linebacker, if the quarterback gets outside, he's going to flush over the top. If he can get upfield and shut him down, he's going to be here. But now you have your backside pursuit angles coming as well. And you can see how the backside pocket is collapsing. They get upfield so much, he cannot throw the ball in rhythm. He has a chance. If he can throw it now, if he can set his feet just a little bit right now and throw the football, he's got a chance, but they've actually covered it decently outside. They're up the field in his face, so now he has to try to escape, it makes it difficult for him. Tries to dump it off to his running back and doesn't have a chance to. But I thought just that simple nuance of shading the quarterback over a little bit to try to cheat him out there is something, again, not overly common in modern day football.
And the play they want right there is they want him to get rid of it quickly.
They want him to get it out and throw a flat route right now. That's the idea. Yep. All right. A little bit later in the game, actually, I think it's the very next drive. You're talking 1st and 10 here. Now Kamario Taylor is in the game. Here comes a little bit of motion again, and they're going to motion into a crossing concept, okay? Here, Missouri ends up bringing a 6-man pressure. They end up bringing a safety, okay? A seasoned quarterback with any more protection is going to realize the pressure is coming from here, and that crossing route coming into that void is going to get the ball early. He does not have real opportunity to set his feet right here and make this throw. His eyes appear to be in the right place. He is wide open.
Oh, man. And that's the kind of play that's hurt Ole Miss this year right there.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah. And if it's not open, you have a second window coming right here. Again, base concept, okay? His eyes, he knows his first read, he's looking outside to see if he can throw this single receiver. He doesn't like it, so he immediately gets his eyes back. Now, I give the kid credit. He doesn't get taken down easily right here, and he does a phenomenal job protecting the ball and knowing where his check down is. In one regard, that is one hell of a heads-up play by a freshman in a chaotic situation in the pocket.
Yeah,
and the other regard is you watch him here, the eyes go – it almost looks like the eyes go so far across, I don't think he sees the safety coming. If he does, there's time to throw that ball right now. Stick your foot in the ground, ball's out.
Yeah, you're going to get hit, but you're going to have an explosive play.
But you're going to have an absolutely explosive play. But the reality is here, I don't think he recognizes what's happened coverage-wise until it's too late. And now he's got a guy in his lap. Again, great job. Tucks the football, 2 hands, pulls it to his carriage, maneuvers in the pocket. He's big, he's physical, and then phenomenal job finding his check down, who does a great job going and making something positive out of it. So
he started off with his eyes all the way to the sideline.
All the way to the left, looking at a single receiver. And what he's honestly probably trying to do, because he doesn't realize the safety's blitzing, he's probably trying to hold the safety. Now when he comes back, by the time he sees him, he sees it now. He wants to throw it, but he's not ready to throw it, and he's got somebody right there in his face. It's just part of that growth process. Now, here is the very next play, okay? So they go 2 by 2. You're second and short right now, and they're going to get into another passing concept, okay? What they're trying to do right here, and they love to do it, they will throw these inside curl routes with the outside receivers. If I'm not 100% on this, but I believe it's a read. It's either going to be a hitch if you get soft coverage, or it's going to be a vertical if you get a tight coverage by the corner. His first read is try to find this grass for the inside curl route. And he starts those eyes to the boundary right there. Okay. And the reality is, you just don't have as much field to work with. I think I would have liked to throw down here to the field, because you can put the ball on the outside shoulder of the tight end right there. He can work away from that linebacker, and you've got a little bit more space before that cloud corner becomes an issue. Even working into the boundary right here, because the corner does fall off a little bit with the vertical route by the outside receiver, there is space to drive the football here on the outside shoulder of this curl route, and he just doesn't trust it yet. So he gets out with his feet, and he keeps his eyes downfield. He doesn't just panic to take off. He finds his big body and is able to convert it for the first down. So I thought, did he maybe miss a throw in rhythm? Yes. There was definitely a window to squeeze the football in there, but I thought the kid did a nice job not panicking, just moving in the pocket, eyes downfield, throws a very catchable ball, puts it right on the kid, and is able to convert. So again, there's kind of the good and the bad with the young kid. Okay. Here is a few plays later. All right. So a lot of this offense is predicated on choice routes, where the receiver is going to make a post-snap decision. They will run choice with outside receivers, and they will run choice with inside receivers. Slot choice is one of their favorite concepts this season, because their slot is their most explosive player in the offense. So what they're going to do is it's honestly on the backside, it's usually a pretty lazy route action. The outside receiver is going to run some type of a curl or comeback. Sometimes you'll see him dig it inside, but this receiver is going to go step on this safety's toes. Okay. If that safety were to disappear to the middle of the field or rotate down, he is going to just leave him and stay vertical in his concept. If that safety lifts and he gets deep in his coverage structure, he is going to bend it to a post. And if the safety is over the top but not crazy deep, he has the ability to bend it into a dig right here. Okay. It is putting a lot on the quarterback to be on the same page with the receiver. When you're right, it can be extremely effective. When you're wrong, it can be a problem. So here they're working the slot choice and on a 3rd and long, and Missouri's going to get into essentially a Tampa 2. It's 3 high safeties. So you're over the top. This player should be telling you by alignment that he is going to be a deep hole player. So when this receiver is working off his near safety, he gets a post read. As a quarterback, you have to be aware of that hole player sitting in the middle of the field. Okay. He sees the read right here, but he loses sight of the number 4, the middle field player, and the backside safety, and he realistically throws this ball into what could, double, maybe even triple coverage right here. You have to see that hole player, and that ball either has to be out so early that you feel like your guy can run away from it, or in reality, with him being over the top and the safety being over the top, you've got to come out of that ball and find one of your other guys in the progression, or conceivably a check down right here. Here, the freshman just gets a little excited, throws the ball into max coverage, and really has a chance for a turnover right there. So that's one of the reasons that I think Lebby continues to roll Shapen out there is, I don't think Taylor always has his eyes in the right place, and I don't think he always sees what is happening from a coverage standpoint in front of him. We can see a little bit more of the same in this Mississippi State versus Georgia game. So we're going to give you the exact same concept here now with Shapen at quarterback. Okay. This is kind of early in the game against UGA, obviously in Starkville. So it's going to be the slot down here at the bottom of the screen is running the same type of choice route. Pre-snap right here, it looks like the middle of the field might be closed. He is going to go and attack this safety. If he gets man-to-man, he is going to stay vertical, and he is going to run away from him. If this guy disappears, he's going to try to read what is capping his route, what's on top of his route. So here, there's the vertical release. Okay, he feels the guy working out underneath him. He knows there's a safety over the top, so he's going to bend this choice route and sit in that window. And it's not the best ball, and I honestly don't even know if they really want the receiver to bend it inside a little bit more. Okay, but Chapin knows exactly where his eyes are supposed to be. He gets them there. His feet are in the ground. He's ready to throw a catchable ball, and it turns into an explosive play on a 1st and 10. This is just the experience of the older quarterback doing a little bit better job with his eyes, with his mechanics, and being on time and having an understanding of where the ball has to go. Okay, now here's the funny thing. 3 plays later, same series, 2nd and 15, Taylor's back in the game. Now instead of doing it with a tight end and running back in the backfield, they're going to be 4 wide. One of the running back is one of the guys flexed out, I believe, and the tight end is going to be in the backfield, but they're going to go back to that same slot choice concept. So again, here they're working the slot choice to the slot at the bottom of the screen. Okay. Here he pushes vertical, fills it and bends it into the hole, and you can see that the quarterback just misses. Okay. And here's what I want you to see. I want you to watch Kamario Taylor's footwork right here on this play. Okay. His eyes are going to flash to the right, and then they're going to come back to the left for his read. Gets big at the top of his drop. See how his feet never really get in the ground, and he's just a little bouncy. Now, listen, you want your feet active in the pocket. You typically don't want dead feet. But look at the end zone copy here. Watch Chapin's feet. Less chaotic. See how smooth he is? He gets to base. His feet stay active, but they're not antsy. It keeps him in a little bit better position to throw. You go to the end zone copy here. He doesn't stay quite as balanced in his footwork. Snap maybe throws him off a little bit, and then the protection, again, affects him because he doesn't feel like he can step up into it. So the ball sails on him. And it's the exact same read.
He's seeing ghosts though, because he's protected there.
He's protected right there, but he's just honestly, if you look at it, when he throws the ball, the timing's not bad. The receiver just wrapped. I don't know if it's him not being on the same page, expecting the receiver to stay more vertical and not expecting him to wrap it and throttle down so much, but the ball just absolutely airmails right there. And that's part of the reason that Levy continues to go back to Chapin and hasn't fully turned the keys over to Taylor. Okay, now here he goes, Taylor again. All right, going to work what's called a climb route. So it's going to be what you're going to get right here is you're going to get a deep post. I can't remember exactly. I think the deep post comes from here, and then you're going to get 2 crossing routes with one coming underneath. And you're basically going to read that thing 1 to 2. You're only thinking this if you get true man-to-man coverage. And then from 2, you're going to be down to one of your check downs. Okay? So here they're going to play action. There's the post. He is bracketed and over the top. So his progression now has to come down here. This post has cleared out the corner. There is no one over there. He has time in the pocket, and he forces the post into double coverage.
Yeah.
If you look at this from the end zone copy, I think we can see it from here.
So this is almost like the baseball equivalent of I'm swinging.
That's 1,000%. That ball needs to be going right there. And if I go back to the wide, probably should have stayed there. When he lets that ball go, look at all the space right here to throw him into the window for an absolutely massive gain.
Yeah.
And
that's that. I mean, I know you understand what I mean, but like for the people that have never played baseball, sometimes hitters get into really bad habits of I'm swinging. He's swinging 3-1. I'm swinging. I'm dead red fastball, and even
absolutely.
when the pitcher throws a slider or a changeup, and you're just swinging. You're on your heels, and it leads to mistakes. And in this case, what I mean by that, and Pete, please correct me if I'm wrong, is in his mind I'm guessing in his mind at the line of scrimmage, I'm throwing the post route.
So I think that when he comes out pre-snap and he identifies this safety is not going to be a deep safety. They're playing some type of man-to-man. This deep safety is all the way over here. He is away from this spray post. I think that he pre-snap makes the decision, oh, snap, the post is going to be open. I'm going to throw it.
Yeah.
Now, call it a disservice if you want to, call it whatever, but when you ask your quarterback to turn his back from the secondary and set up, it's hard to get eyes back to this safety sometimes. So the reality is, I don't know if and when he sees this safety. I think he expects right now to have a true one-on-one, and when his eyes go back, you can see they're here. He's identifying, did I get man-to-man? He does. His hips come around. He has to step up, and he just rifles it there again into coverage. If he just don't swing for the fences right here, be happy with the base hit, and this base hit ends up in the gap and turns into a triple. And that's what you're playing with right now. And again, it's part of that reason. Now, here's the other one. And this one doesn't take a whole lot of explanation right here. Very next play in the game, you just missed a chance at an absolute explosive. Very next play in the game, you're going to give him an RPO right here. This is the same scheme I showed you earlier, where they're going to, instead of using motion, though, they're just going to rail him out of the backfield. Quarterback's got a chance to run it. But he also has an RPO chance. Do I have numbers and leverage to throw the bubble? He does. Georgia's playing back, so he's going to throw the bubble. But he turns and he airmails the bubble, throws it behind and over the head of his receiver. And it's a young kid being rushed, kind of losing his mechanics a little bit, right? And there's a lot of reason in Starkville to be excited about what the future has for him. There's not a doubt about that. But he's not as mature right now as Shapen, and even though he has a higher ceiling potentially than the older upperclassmen, right now the production is coming from the upperclassmen. So
probably didn't play a lot of Georgias and Missouris in high school.
No, Noxubee County did not, in fact, play a lot of Georgias and Missouris, and that's not a knock on any program that played.
It's just the learning curve is steep.
It is steep. It is steep. So here's another look at the motion. We showed this earlier where they start here and they motion guys inside, okay? And you see, let me go back to it. All right. You see his protection kind of fails him again. What you would love is for your receiver to keep running into this space. And there's space there for him. They're working a little switch here on the outside. This guy probably has a read. He can either stay vertical or bend it right there. And I think if blitz happens, I think this guy actually has a chance to throttle down and kind of be a hot player. Here you see Georgia shows pressure. They bring pressure. He's able to get out of the pocket. And this is where you get excited, because when the kid takes off, and again, nice recognition, man-to-man coverage, at least he feels like it is. They're kind of matching it underneath with some zone. Okay, he gets out of there, he takes off, and he is athletic, and he is a big physical runner with the ball in his hands. So even when he's not necessarily firing on all cylinders in the passing game, if you get too excited in your pressure and he has the ability to get out of the pocket, he absolutely can and will make you pay with his feet. Okay, just a couple more clips from this game. Here's one other. Again, Kamario Taylor, okay, coming back to now what I believe is an outside choice, okay? So it could be a Y-cross concept. I think it's actually an outside choice. So this guy's going to run a bender. His job is to occupy. The quarterback is only really taking him into consideration if the middle of the field absolutely opens up. He's now running the choice. If the corner's down, he can run past him. If he gets outside leverage for some reason, he can post over the top. If he gets anything else, he has the ability to retrace, come back down his stem. Flashes eyes the other way, comes back to the choice side, and ends up throwing this choice really into this safety. Again, he has no feel right here for what this safety does. That safety is 100% cross-keying and looking for something coming from the other direction. If this tight end were to release, he's going to take him. If that tight end goes behind the line, he's probably coming down to take him. Tight end stays in protection. So he's just going to continue to read the quarterback, and he can afford to work eyes inside. They are matched up out here. So he doesn't see that safety, doesn't feel the safety, and almost hangs his dude out to dry right there. The ball ends up being tipped by the linebacker right there, but I don't know if it's not tipped, if his receiver walks away from that very kindly, or even if it ends up not being an interception. If he progresses and comes off of that and comes back here to the field, he throws this little post curl right here to number 0 and probably gets a first down and keeps the sticks moving. Last clip I'm going to show you here. Again, going with Taylor late in that UGA game again, and they're going to come back to another shot play. Now, the kid does have arm talent. So now instead of working inside choice, they're going to work outside choice. Here's their most dynamic playmaker at the top of the screen. He's going to flash eyes left, and he's going to come back. He gets one-on-one coverage. The safety is held on the hash, so he is going to let it fly, and he drops a dot in there to their most explosive receiver. They are good on the outside. I think that, I think for Ole Miss, they're going to be able to get to the quarterback. It's going to be about getting Mississippi State into third and long situations, on early down and distance situations, because if they can get this Mississippi State offense into third down, I think Ole Miss has to feel good about their chances. If you talk about conversion rate and you look at third down conversions, they are 9th in the league at about 43%. Now, Ole Miss is 7th in the league at 46%, right? But they are not a great third down team in general, and I'd be willing to bet third and long that number is even more bleak. So that'll be one of the keys, I think, to not letting this thing become a shootout and trying to, win those early downs, get them to third and long, and get off the field.
Yeah, I think it's one of those games where, because of Ole Miss's seeming ability to run the football against State's really struggled against the run of late. They ought to be able to control tempo. They ought to be able to get ahead. And if they get ahead and stay ahead, they're probably fine. It's one of those deals, this. It's a rivalry game. The other team has nothing to lose. The longer you get into a close game, the more one team tends to get a little tight. And the more one team goes, what doesn't matter to us? We're going to play. And, sure, 6-6 might let you get to the Birmingham Bowl, but that's not some big motivating factor for a bunch of people, right? State's going to play, and if you give them a reason to go, hey, you're not winning today, pack it up, they will. And if you give them a reason to go, hey, you guys have a chance to wreck this, they're going to start getting excited about it.
We said it about the Florida game. If you give them a chance to hang around, they're going to find some life.
And they did.
Right? And listen, Ole Miss, and I thought on the MPW Digital postgame show last week, I thought Siski was spot on. Ole Miss kind of dominated everywhere with the scoreboard. If Ole Miss is efficient in the red zone in that football game, it's a 3-score game easily.
Yeah.
But they hurt themselves. They didn't execute in certain situations, and Florida had a chance to stick around in the end and make it a game.
Should be an interesting one. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone. 11 a.m. ABC will have post-game coverage at MPW Digital. The plan is for me and Tyler Comas to be in Starkville. Chase will be back in Oxford, ready to host the post-game with Siski and Rippy and Jeffrey and the whole gang. And we'll see where that takes us. Either going to be talking about clinching a playoff bid and starting to talk about whether they can get a bye, or it'll be panic time, one or the other. So not a lot of in between, but that's where we are. And hey, if you'd offered somebody that before the season, they would have jumped at it, because that would have meant that all the 8-4, 9-3 talk was out the window, that they did better, and sure enough, they did. So Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and then Pete and I, at some point, once we see where things are going, we'll be back with another edition of Pete's Pigskin Preview. Pete, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Safe travels.
Same to you.
Good luck to your team. And we will check back with you guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games, and keep with us here at MPW. So for Pete, I'm Neal. Take care.